Hey Mars boy, why didn't you invite me to those shows you did?
Oh, hush up, Ethan. You told me you weren't available, so I didn't bring you along with me. Anyway, welcome to the 27th episode of ML Backstage. My name is Mars Luna,
And I'm Ethan.
and we're introducing this podcast straight from the sixth dimension. This is a music commentary podcast hosted by just Joshua Luna today. Ugh, goodness gracious. Due to time differences in schedules, Holokahiki Toves and Kainalu Kamai were not able to make it this time. In this episode, we're going to talk about my upcoming single, Communication. Since you know, Ethan, that summer flings turn into summer heartbreaks due to a lack of communication. It also looks like Joshua is going to talk about some Las Vegas sports banter since the Golden Knights just won the Stanley Cup. Go Knights, go! Now back to planet Earth we go!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 27 of the ML Backstage podcast. I'm Joshua Luna. I'm normally joined by my co-host, Holokahiki Toves and Kainalu Kamai, my two best friends. But, you know, life's busy now. You know what I'm saying? Well, life's been busy. But, yeah, life's busy for all of us. And it's hard to get schedules aligned and trying to match the time zones. So you have just me today. You know, ML Backstage is a podcast that revolves around my musical project, Mars Luna, and we talk about and go over, you know, every Mars Luna project, every single, every, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just go behind the scenes and talk about like, oh, this is what happened during this time when I made this single or when I release this album or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of a time capsule. This podcast is kind of a time capsule thing to kind of, you know, look back and be like, oh yeah, like these were some good times, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's a kind of about, it's basically behind the scenes look of all of the songs and projects that I've made under the Mars Luna name. And I guess, you know, as you can see, you know, I normally start this podcast talking about what song or what album we're working on now, and we're gonna get to that in a minute. But as you can see in this background here, the Las Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup, baby. And you know, and today is June 14th. Time's flying by really fast, and they just won the whole thing yesterday. So I thought I'd, you know, talk about a little bit about Vegas sports and how it's becoming a sports town. And, you know, it's the Aces, you know, I got an Aces cap right here. Shout out to the Las Vegas Aces, you know, for winning their first championship last year. And the Golden Knights have won their first championship within the first 6 years of their existence. And it's pretty surreal to think about, honestly. And, you know, and to win in the way that they did, they were they were the best team in the entire NHL this past season. And I haven't watched a whole lot of Golden Knights, but I did keep track of the playoffs, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, seeing them win was something that I anticipated. You know what I'm saying? Like, I anticipated them winning Game 5. And I was talking to one of my friends yesterday, and we basically had a theory about the two Miami teams that were in the finals and how they were basically built the same way. So I watched the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat play their Game 5 the day before, and if the Miami Heat lost, which they did, I knew that Vegas was going to win the next day, and they did in a completely annihilating manner. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. An annihilating fashion. There we go. And you know, I watched the game, and you know, I just saw the score keep going on. I was like, dang, like this is insane. The owner said they were gonna, they were planning on winning in 6 years, and they won it in exactly 6 years. That's insanity to me. And Vegas has become a sports mecca in less than 10 years. That's insanity to me. And there is a Mars Luna tie into this, because a couple years ago in 2020, before the pandemic, Mars Luna had a song, The Villain, play at a Golden Knights game. They were battling the Kings, and they got whooped 5-0, and Gallant got fired shortly afterwards. And then it led to, 2 coaches later, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like 2 coaches later, 3 years later, they won the whole thing. That's real crazy. You know what I'm saying? And, shout out to the Knights. Shout out to the squad. This is it's a good time to be in the city right now. You know what I'm saying? And, also on the same day, the the Vegas Senate passed a bill to progress moving the Oakland A's to becoming the Las Vegas A's. And as a Vegas local, I don't want them here. And knowing a little bit about, their history and how the past few years have been for the Oakland A's and the state of their Coliseum and everything, and knowing, that we're going to take another Oakland team, it's rough. I'm feeling for the city of Oakland right now. You know what I'm saying? And this is a very ineloquent summary of Vegas being a sports town now, but I don't know. It was just a random thing I thought about last night, and I thought I'd bring that up before we start this podcast episode. And in honor of the Golden Knights win, I would have worn a Golden Knights jersey, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find mine, so a Josh Jacobs Raiders jersey will have to do. And shout out to Josh Jacobs, that's my boy. He had a great year last year, but the Raiders got to step it up. So this episode is about the next Mars Luna single, Communication. It's coming out on June 27th, and this podcast episode will be out before the song comes out. So pre-save on Spotify, pre-order on iTunes, Apple Music, all that stuff, and I'll link that in the show notes below. It's pretty simple. The song is pretty simple, and I saw Mars Luna. He typed out something to summarize the song. He said something like, summer flings turn into summer breakups due to a lack of communication. And communication is, on a serious note, communication is an essential part of everyday life. Relationships, whether it's platonic or romantic, are always established by great communication, and knowing how to communicate with your coworkers, how to communicate with your loved ones, how to communicate with your family and your partner, spouse. It all hinges on communication. It all hinges on trust. And the song basically talks about a relationship that's on the verge of breaking up, and the girl in the song is basically telling the guy to step up. You know what I'm saying? Like she wants to work things out, she wants to talk things out, and she wants this dude as her own. But and I will admit that women are better communicators than men most of the time. And because women are more in tune with their emotions, they're more in tune with their feelings and stuff like that. And for the longest time, like men, myself included, have been inadvertently taught to, just thug it out, just suck it up, and everything will be all good. But the more you repress your emotions, the more you repress your feelings, and you gotta communicate in a healthy way, right? So that's kind of basically what the song's about, and it's a banger. I love this song. I wrote this song years ago, probably like around 2018 or so it's been a couple years, but yeah, can't wait for everyone to hear it, and hope y'all put that song on your summer playlist and your summer banger rotations. Communication is very similar to a song that I released years ago that I wrote around the same time called Selfish. And Selfish is basically about a song. It's a song that it's basically a relationship that's just finished. It's it's basically pleading to stop being selfish, and being selfish is a key component to relationships failing, and being selfish and not communicating kind of go hand in hand. So it was just a really quick tie-in, and both of them are kind of built in the same way as well, except communication has an ukulele that's driving the rhythm of the song. So yeah, and I know I showed the song to Holo back when it was in its draft stages, and he said that song reminded him of Linkin Park, and Morgan thought the song reminded him of Maroon 5, which is kind of funny because I was actually kind of inspired by Tony Luca. So shout out to my boy Tony Luca. He used to be on the Mickey Mouse Club like in the 90s, and he was on The Voice like about a decade ago or so, and he's one of the greatest songwriters I've ever known, and or not. Come on, well, forgive me. One of the best songwriters I've ever seen, and he's goated to me. So shout out to him, and just want to ask you to forgive me ahead of time because it's been a while since I've had a solo episode, and my body is kind of aching from working out and stuff like that, and it was leg day yesterday, and it was arm day today, and my body's all it's not 100% right now, but we're gonna thug it out, and I appreciate y'all patience. So speaking of communication, I want to touch on the 5 love languages. And the 5 love languages is essentially it's a book that was written by I'm trying to find the guy's name. Hold on one second. Something Chapman. Who wrote the book? Gary Chapman. There we go. And basically you hear these like 5 languages, 5 love languages talked about all the time, and which are gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, and quality time. And I'm gonna read through all of the 5 love languages through an article on verywellmind.com. I will link that in the show notes below. And so it says Gary Chapman's book. Jesus. Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, was first published in 1992. Before writing the book, Chapman began to notice patterns in couples he was counseling. He realized that the couples were misunderstanding each other's needs. That led him to come up with 5 love languages, or ways that people in relationships express love. They are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts. Now, words of affirmation is about expressing affection through spoken words, praise, or appreciation. When this is someone's primary love language, they enjoy kind words and encouragement, uplifting quotes, love notes, and cute text messages. You can make this person's day by complimenting them or pointing out what they do well. Quality time. Someone with this love language wants undivided attention. They feel loved if you are present and focused on them when you are together. This means putting down the cell phone, turning off the computer, making eye contact, and actively listening. And people with this love language are looking for quality over quantity. A person with physical touch as their primary love language feels love through physical affection. Aside from sex, they feel loved when their partner holds their hand, touches their arm, or gives them a massage at the end of the day, for example. This person's idea of a perfect date night might include cuddling on the couch with a glass of wine and a good movie. They simply want to be close to their partner physically. Acts of service are nice things you do for your partner that make them feel loved and appreciated, such as helping with the dishes, running errands, vacuuming, putting gas in the car. If your partner's main love language is acts of service, they'll notice and appreciate the little things you do for them. They tend to perform acts of service and kindness for others too. Receiving gifts. For someone who uses and responds to this love language, gift giving indicates love and affection. They treasure not only the gift itself, but also the time and effort the gift giver put into it. People who enjoy receiving gifts as a part of their primary love language do not necessarily expect large or expensive presents. It's more the effort and thoughtfulness behind the gift that count. When you take the time to pick out a gift specifically for them, it tells them you really know them. People with this love language can often remember every little gift they have received from their loved ones because it makes such an impact on them. So, I guess, So, I know that from reading those descriptions and taking a test, I know that my love language is words of affirmation. And I feel like that's a pretty common one amongst most people, I think, or at least most people I'm around. I would say, quality time is probably a solid second. I would say that words of affirmation is my love language because, I'm always hard on myself. And that's not, especially when it comes to like music and stuff, or in general, things that I'm good at, because, well, people notice that I'm hard on myself, but the reason why I'm hard on myself often gets misconstrued. I'm hard on myself because, especially when it's something I do like music or something that, I put a lot of time and effort into. It's because I know I'm good at it. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to music, more specifically, I try to, set a certain standard for myself. And when I know that I don't meet that standard, or when I fall short of whatever expectations I put on myself that day, or whatever, then it's like, dang, it's easy to kind of look at the times when I fell short, or the times where it's like, oh, I made this little mistake, and I kind of marinate over that mistake because that was, I'm like, okay, like what I got to do to get better, what I got to do to, not let this happen again. You know what I'm saying? And because I know I'm good at something, and because I know that more specifically with music and creativity, that I put a lot of effort and I put a lot of time and I put a lot of, put a lot of my life into being a creative person. It's always easy to get hung up over a little mistake. And, it's funny because I'm generally more relaxed about everything else. So I would say that words of affirmation is my main love language out of the ones that are there. And I like intentional quality time too. I like, spending time with my loved ones and just kicking it and having fun, having deep conversations, and just just vibing with the people that I care about. I think that's a love language that's a solid second, especially since I don't really like leaving the house, and I don't really like you know doing things with other people unless I feel like I haven't seen them in a long time, or unless like I have to get out of the house. You know what I'm saying? Like work or whatever. So, you know what I'm saying? I would say that quality time is a solid second for me. What so I guess my question is to all of you listening and watching is what is your main love language? Type that out in the comment section below. Um, or in the show notes, or on Anchor, YouTube, uh, Spotify, and Apple. Okay. So another question I have is, what does great communication look like, or what is an example of it? Um, One of the things I try to do is to, you know, especially when it's easy to communicate well when things are going well, right? But when things are not going well, or whether there's a disagreement, or whether there's something that's not aligned, or something that's kind of iffy, then I can communicate my frustrations, right? And I can say, like, take all sides into consideration. So, like, I would probably say something like, yo, this is I don't like the direction this is going, whatever, like something don't feel right, something isn't really aligned, but I understand where you're coming from. I understand, like, okay, why we're going down this path. And one of the things I'm trying to um remember is that alignment is a daily practice. And I'm trying to be aligned in everything that I do, and make sure that I'm aligned uh with the things I believe in, with the convictions that I have, with the opinions that I have, with with the visions that I have, or whatever. Like, I try to be in alignment with that stuff all the time, and every decision that I make uh has to be in alignment with the things I subscribe to. And or like, even say you have a work project, you have a group project, and a lot of it with music is a giant group project. Like, if you're working on an album with uh several producers, then you're basically working on a group project together, and you have to communicate with each other. Okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, you know what I'm saying? And I like the direction this is going, I don't like the direction this is going, I feel like this can change. This I feel like this may work better instead. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like great communication, sometimes you need to take the emotions out of it, um especially if it's something that you disagree with. um I think that's something I'm learning now, especially kind of working in an office. It's basically, you got to find ways to be objective without being too blunt all the time. So it's or being um untactful, you know what I'm saying? I would also say that, yeah, and with everything, you need to work well with people. And that's just a way to get better at communicating. um Another question I have is, what is the biggest miscommunication snafu you've experienced? I don't think I've really had a lot of miscommunication snafus, because I've always been a pretty direct person whenever I do talk, you know what I'm saying? And um it doesn't really leave a lot of room for misunderstandings. But what I excuse me, but what I will say is that um I would say back in, like, late 2019 to early 2020, Holo and I kind of had a rift because he was he I'll say this because he's not here, and he's expressed that on his vlog, which you can go check out on YouTube. Holokahiki Toves, go check it out. It's some entertaining stuff on there. And he's admitted this. When we've talked through this, and it's everything's Gucci now. There was a time when Holo was crushing on a mutual friend of ours, and I guess, like, he was going through some wild times back in the end of 2019, and his head was kind of not in the right place. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. But yeah, like he kind of had this he was determined. I will say that he was determined to kind of to make this girl his. And I was kind of like, I mean, for me, I was kind of very blunt with the way I was saying things. I was like, why? Right. And I guess he had that impression that I was trying to, we were trying to compete over the same girl, but it was not. And I knew that this girl saw me as a platonic friend, and I knew that she viewed him the same way too. And I didn't want him to get his heart broken again. So that was kind of where it came from. And and everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And we're all good now. But if I was a little more tactful with the way I handled that situation, it probably would have been resolved sooner. But like, he understood, and we were able to hash it out. And that's the biggest miscommunication snafu that I remember. Maybe there were more. There's probably some more, like, miscommunication stuff with work stuff or whatever, but it's never really anything specific with that. And the last question I have is, how can you improve communication in your relationships? I would say, I'm probably not the right person to ask to answer this question, because I don't really like being around people. And not in a bad way, but I'm not a people person, and that's something I'm trying to be better at. And so I guess one of the things I can do to improve communication in my relationships is by just being around people. And I'm trying to be around people who are different from me, and that's most people, because I don't really relate to anybody that well. But I would say, just try to be understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, try to view things objectively, and try to objectively understand what the other person's viewpoint is and their perspectives and stuff like that. You can't be self-centered with those things, because being self-centered and being selfish can lead to a path of trouble. So I would probably say, just go into whatever conversation or whatever situation you're in, and just try to be objective and try to be understanding, and try to listen effectively, and and talk things through and sort things through. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you got to go into whatever relationship it is, right? Whether it's a work relationship, whether it's a familial relationship, whether it's your loved ones, or whether it's your partner. You're gonna have to go into that kind of conversation with an open mind and with an open heart, and go into it being willing to understand, and being willing to hear everything out, and to sort things out. And that's just kind of that's just kind of the way it goes. You know what I'm saying? So once again, thank you so much to everyone for listening and watching to this episode of the ML Backstage podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and YouTube. And we're still in the middle of album season, and I'll probably give an update on the album within the next episode or so. And there's still a lot more to talk about, and it's coming soon though. It's coming soon. And I'm working, you know what I'm saying? Morgan's working, you know what I mean? And thank you to everyone who's been watching and checking out this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier in the beginning, this is basically a time capsule type thing where I look back at every single, every project, you know what I'm saying? Like everything I've ever worked on for Mars Luna, and to just see like where I was mentally, emotionally, spiritually during the times when I made those projects and these songs, and it'll be a good thing to look at like down the line. So I appreciate all of you. Pre-save and pre-order Communication. This song's a banger, and I'm excited to share it with all of you. And yeah, stay tuned for the next episode next month, where we're gonna hopefully talk about the next Mars Luna single after Communication, because that is the plan, but things always change. So and if not, we'll talk about the Mars Luna shows that have happened over this month actually. So thank you so much again. Hope you all have a great rest of your night, day, or afternoon and evening, wherever you are. And stay tuned for the next episode, and stay tuned for Communication. And as Mars Luna likes to say, embrace your odyssey and embrace the strange. Bye, guys.
I don't know how much longer I could trust Joshua to do these solo episodes, Ethan. Can't he at least bring somebody on?
Relax, boy. It's going fine. I'm enjoying watching you blow up.
Whatever, boy. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of the ML Backstage podcast. If you liked what you heard, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to us on Apple and YouTube at ML Backstage. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Mars Luna. You can find all of my music on Spotify and Apple Music, and on my website at itsmarsluna.com. Pre-save Communication and stream it when it comes out. Thank you all for listening, watching, and hanging out with us. Hope you're all enjoying this episode, and stay tuned for the next one as we hopefully talk about the next single. It's back-to-back-to-back singles, baby!